Hi, Angela. This is Lauren, and I had a referral for you and I to work together from your friend Mary Mar. So thanks so much for being open to working with me. I know it's always a little daunting if this is your first tarot reading or if this is just working with someone new. That's always, you never know how that's going to go. So I was really happy to hear that Mary Mar has been really happy with her readings. So it really does allow me to work with other people. I don't read tarot for a lot of people like I used to. I mainly am an astrologer now, but I've been doing tarot for a very, very, very long time, over 20 years. So we are going to look into some of the relationship prospects today, and I actually just used these two decks for Mary Mar, so I just figured, let's go ahead and see what comes up for you with these as well, since they're just attuned to reading for love. So it looks like you and Christian are having a little bit of a falling out right now. So it sounds like from what you're saying that you guys have officially separated. I don't know if this is the first time this has happened or if this has happened in the past, but we'll dive into what some of this energy is saying. And you're, I guess, essentially wanting to know, if there are feelings beneath the surface that he's not expressing despite, being broken up. How much investment you should put into this relationship going forward. Should you fight for this relationship, and what the future prospects are. And also if there were if anybody was in his ear, basically saying part of the reason why you guys have separated. From what I gather, I find it very interesting. I don't know if you've ever looked into the astrology for you two, but I did notice that, there's an interesting transit that happened right around this time where the breakup likely happened with Venus. And oftentimes Venus transits can create changes in relationships. So it looks like Venus sort of challenged some of the placements in both of your charts. So all the planets on the day you're born can be placed in different signs. They represent different things and they enhance different areas of your life. So, and part of your personal expression as well. You'll be attuned to those particular planets and those particular signs. So, what I think would be a good way to kind of knock a lot of this out is to start by doing a thoughts, feelings, intentions. So I'll reverse. So like everything is going to be projected that way for you. So we could do thoughts, feelings, intentions. And then that will give us like a pretty good read on, what we think is, where you came from and where you're currently at and where things are likely going to pan out in the future. I think that's probably the best way to go about it. And what we do with this is we'll place you on this side, him on this side, and then like what sort of the reality will be or what will kind of happen or what has happened. So how you do this is, so thoughts for you, him, and what that manifests as. Feelings, him, intentions. Okay, so this is usually like a good spread that I like to do every once in a while especially because I'm working with new clients and new people. I'm also going to pull signifiers for you. So pull one for you and one for him. So we'll start with the signifiers first, just to kind of get a sense of what the general energy is. And so here we have the Two of Wands reversed. And this makes a lot of sense to me, just based off of what we're talking about, based off of what kind of question this reading is pertaining to. So the Two of Wands deals a lot with contemplation or indecision, not being sure where to place your energy, not being sure which way to go. This can be feeling like the wind has been sucked out of your sails. And when this is upright, this is somebody who typically is eager to move forward, like they're very invested in forward movement, but they just aren't sure. They want to make the best choice. Whereas when it's reversed, usually what's been thrust upon you in terms of the situation is not necessarily something of your doing or not something you expected the outcome to be in this situation. So that is already kind of a solid read on what we can expect. And then here we have the High Priestess. So right away, I can already tell you that I would not be surprised if during your relationship with Christian, you felt he was rather ambiguous or enigmatic. Like there were times where you couldn't read him, or there were times you couldn't understand him. And you felt like a lot of times you were pushing to connect more. You were pushing to move through that mist, or like through the proverbial fog or veil. And so the High Priestess is typically a card that divines a lot of things. It's a major arcana card. So part of me feels like a lot of the decision was on his end. And this also tells me a lot of the reasoning for his decision are things that you are not aware of or privy to. Makes me wonder how his communication style is. This could definitely represent somebody who has some difficulties communicating, or the way in which you two typically communicate is a little bit of a mismatch, or it's a little bit of an incompatibility in this relationship. In fact, when I pull the High Priestess in relationship separation readings, when I see the High Priestess, that's usually the number one card I see for things that are not being said. So it seems like he's being tight-lipped for some reason. I'm not sure if it's to protect you. I'm not sure if it's because he's scared of being vulnerable. There are lots of reasons as to why this may be. But at the end of the day, this is pretty hurtful for you. And that is going back to that Two of Wands, where it's like you feel like you can't move on without some sense of closure, without some sense of everything being translated for you. So unfortunately, having to come to a tarot reader is probably not the ideal, right? You would love it if your partner or your previous partner would just sort of say exactly what it is, how it is, right? So let's start with thoughts, like what the current thoughts are in the situation. So for you, we have the Hierophant reversed. Oh man, that's a hard one. Okay. And then for him, we have the Nine of Swords reversed. Okay. Very, very, very different dynamics. Okay. So the Hierophant reversed. So when I see this card upright in any relationship reading, this talks about somebody who is seeking foundations or stability. Like this is usually somebody that has settling down on their mind. Like they're pretty much ready to kind of lock something in and move into something very solid and long lasting. And they're seeking some sort of protection or preservation of self through the relationship. And so when this is reversed, the thoughts are, a lot about like stability, right? It's a lot of like, I feel like I've lost my footing under me, and I feel like I don't have any support to pick me back up. But this, again, can project to the idea of someone being, ready or interested in marriage. And so your thoughts can be like, you really maybe thought that this was the one. You might have really, really had a good feeling about him, or you are putting in so much effort, because we can also see, the Hierophant as like what you place your faith in, because it's a faith-based card as well. So this could be like you, despite maybe incompatibilities or despite maybe issues in the relationship, you are still wanting to be very loyal in this situation. And then with the Nine of Swords reversed, so typically this talks about when this is upright, this is like pervasive, intrusive, and evasive anxiety. So when this card reverses, the thought process can be that they're coming out of some of those feelings of anxiety or overwhelm. So something about it being in the relationship with you, there was something that was causing stress about the relationship to Christian. I'm not sure, what that actually was or what that pertained to. But this can be like inner thoughts that somebody has. And again, like from the art on the card, these can be like thoughts that keep you up at night. So I would say that like, this breakup, and again, I still don't know who initiated it, because I never want to assume. I do get like a type of energy from this, but I have been wrong in the past. So I try not to make really hard proclamations unless the cards are screaming it. But this shows that if it was his decision, it was definitely not an easy decision to make. It was probably one that like weighed pretty heavily on him. The sword cards also deal with communication, like all sword cards do. So this can be like talks, right? He could have went and like talked to other people about what to do in terms of the relationship, or this could be a nod towards the fact that he had people in his ear. In fact, the high priestess also can link to that of like there are messages that you're not hearing, but they're kind of out there behind the scenes. So that could definitely be playing into this as well. In terms of how all of this is actually presenting is the Three of Wands. So essentially like both of you moving on or moving forward. So we'll circle back to whether that could link to you guys coming back together. But right now that looks like a nod of, the intentions are for both of you to move forward in some way. That's like how the thoughts are connecting or where you guys are on the same page to a degree. So neither of you wants to be upset or stressed, right? Both of you are, and I think in a lot of ways, when I think of wand cards too, I think of attraction as well. So this could be that a lot of you, both of you are still sort of able to hold on to the fact that there was something special about your relationship, or there was this strong sense of attraction. Threes also deal with mergings and unions. So it is possible that, as this will eventually present in you guys making contact again or talking, so that you guys can kind of iron some things out. So there is definitely, I think, a possibility for some kind of reconciliation. It may not be reconciliation in the sense of getting back together, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is some sort of reconnection at some point. So feelings, the Nine of Cups reversed and the Seven of Swords. So interesting. He's got a lot of sword cards though. I find that to be quite fascinating. Whereas your cards are linked more towards, they're a little bit more emotionally based, or they're a little bit more relationship focused cards, if you will. So the Nine of Cups reversed is typically, when this is upright, this is a beautiful card. It usually talks about, contentment in oneself, enjoying one's own company. It can be trying to surround yourself with happiness and optimism. It can be leaning into the joys of life. And so when this is reversed, and specifically in a relationship reading, I oftentimes see this as somebody who is not content being by themselves. Like it was not in the cards for them to be single. They really, again, this sort of links back to that Hierophant of like really wanting to lock something in, settle down with somebody. It sounds like you had sort of like real strong goals that meant a lot to you in this relationship. And so, you might feel like in a lot of ways with this breakup, like you sort of have lost a lot of that joy, or you sort of have lost a lot of that sense of self-worth even. It could go as far as that with the Nine of Cups. And you just may not be feeling very emotionally generous in the situation. You could definitely be upset or mad or feel resentful or angry, right? Like these are the type of emotions that can come up with the Nine of Cups reversed. And so I definitely get that sense that there is, I think in some ways maybe there's a lot you may feel like you need to say, or you might feel like your world's been turned upside down, right? And the Seven of Wands reversed, the Seven of Swords reversed is so fascinating because typically when this card is upright, it talks about deceptions and lies or dishonesty. The Seven of Swords can also talk about betrayals. So by that being reversed, his feelings might be, that although it was, certain things in a relationship were difficult, he feels like in a lot of ways he's being honest to himself, or to be honest with you is more important than to preserve or protect your feelings or emotions. Like these two cards are very, very divergent from each other in their nature. That is definitely, it's a very interesting dynamic where in a lot of ways it does seem like you guys aren't on the same page. And I definitely would say in terms of what little bit I saw about the planets on the days you guys were born, that you guys have a lot of ability to come together and have great compatibility. So it seems like the communication issues are a lot of what the issues seem to be in this particular dynamic. And that's something that is just itching at the back or scratching at the back of my mind. In terms of how these are actually translating, Yeah, again, 10 of swords reverse. So typically this is like, when it's upright, it's like, this is the end, right? Like this is where we leave off. Like, what has been said, and we're not going to go back. But I feel like, if, feelings wise, how this will all manifest is that, I think, one of you, I think particularly you, needs more closure than him. And it's possible that maybe there is something he didn't say that he feels bad about. Like, he feels like even though he was trying to be honest, he wasn't fully honest with you. And so I think in some ways you both benefit from conversing again and getting some sense of closure. So, I mean, this is another card that could nod to, again, reconciliation. It's very difficult to say, though, based on these cards. I don't see a lot here that shows you'll get back together, but I will ask that question specifically once we're done with this particular part. So in terms of the Ten of Wands reverse, some other things that might be good for you to know. Yeah, so the only other thing that I didn't, I don't know if I said it quite this way, is, again, we talked about the possibility of reconciliation with this. I definitely lean into that. The Ten of Wands reverse, Ten of Swords, gosh, I keep mixing these up. The Ten of Swords reverse can also talk about recovery and regeneration and new beginnings. So again, it is entirely possible that you guys could enter into a new phase of your relationship. However, what was previously established in your relationship, or the dynamic in your relationship previously, is very likely permanently over. So if you guys were to get back together, a lot of new ground rules or a lot of new boundaries would be in place. And again, this might be helpful, right? If there were communication issues, you guys might put things in place so that communication is easier between the two of you. So yeah, I get the sense that what was really strong about the relationship was the attraction and some elements of compatibility, like maybe having similar affinities or tastes or interests, or maybe even like similar values, like your general values and your general like emotional dispositions could be similar, but the communication really does seem to be the Achilles heel here. So let's talk about intentions. It's probably the most important line that most people care about. Feelings are definitely important as well. And I can expand on his feelings a little bit more as well if you'd like, because I know that that's not like an in-depth look. So intentions. Okay, Two of Cups reverse. Your intentions are you would like to gain some understanding. You would like to, I think for you, the hurt is the prevailing thing here. It just seems like there's a lot of hurt in this dynamic for you. And I don't blame you at all for feeling that way. So for your, I think for you, I think you would be okay, or your intention would be that you would be okay getting back together even if things weren't the same. Healing the relationship is something that seems to be your intention for right now. And this is because this card also deals with healing and medicine, because you can see the major symbology for health and healing is there as well. I'm sorry, I'm getting a phone call. Sorry about that. I don't know why I was getting a phone call. Like, they called twice in a row. So another pitfall about this in terms of intention, something that I've just noticed from my years of reading for people, is that this can be, when this is reversed, this can be somebody willing to sacrifice their own happiness to just sort of mediate the relationship and to sort of come back together again. So if you were to go through reconnecting with this person romantically, I think it is still important to really honor your emotional self and make sure you're emotionally validated by Christian, when you are reconnecting, and they affirm you in a really healthy way. And I also think that it's important that you don't forsake your own values for the sake of maintaining the relationship, or based on some of your prevailing wants, because there are other people who might be more of a compatible fit for you, more of a soulmate match even, that you could have this true love with, and true devotion and true bonding. And you have to always sort of be really mindful of what you're possibly entering into is, sacrificing some of your own needs and desires for the sake of this person. It's just sort of a energetic intention that I've seen before. And this could show that you do need to work a little bit more on feelings of self-love and self-worth, because that can sometimes be where it comes from, is a feeling of the Hierophant reverse, like insecurity. Like, I feel insecure in this dynamic. I feel insecure in myself. If I have the tangible sort of manifestation of being valuable or lovable, then it helps to curb my doubts. But if I don't have that actively present in my life, I don't feel lovable, or I don't feel like worthy in this relationship, right? Or just within myself. And that could be a little bit of a stretch, a little bit of a speculation, but it is something I have seen before, so it's something I like to address when I see it. In terms of his intentions, okay, yeah, the Death card. That is typically this is life, death, and rebirth, typically, is what that card represents. It is strongly aligned with the planet Pluto. So typically, decisions or events that occur, or someone's intentions being aligned with a Pluto type card, is I look to move on. I don't look to go back. So that kind of lets us know a lot of his intentions is that he is looking to move into a situation where there is newness. So if he were to move forward in a relationship, he is looking to likely establish that with somebody new. I'm not saying that he has intentions as of this moment, but just intentions in terms of this particular relationship. What's also really interesting is that this can talk a lot about development of self. So this can talk about someone who's wanting to elevate their lives or elevate themselves. And so this can sometimes read it as a card that does end up wanting to try to be single, or they want to gain more power and influence. So there could be other things in his life that sort of pulled him away from being able to give the type of focus and effort he needs in a relationship. But being entirely honest, one thing I noticed from your birthdays in particular is that you guys are basically different generations. So you have a 10-year gap in your birthdays. And so that card could also be saying, oh, I think I might actually want to, when I date the next time, I probably want to date someone closer to my age. That could very well be what that is stating as well, because I have seen something similar come up in the past. So how both of your intentions merge together is the Knight the Knight of Wands. So this is that I think you both will move on into different relationships, maybe somewhat impulsively, or you both will dive into different passion pursuits and interests in order to sort of distract yourselves or to put your investments elsewhere, because the Knight of Wands tends to move in very, very quickly, or they move on very quickly. It's a very when I see this card in early relationships, this can definitely give the sense of rebounding, or the sense of someone diving into a new connection where the primary emphasis of that relationship is physical. So it's basically friends with benefits type of situation, or kind of casually dating. So I could see it's possible that you both will go back into the dating scene. I have sometimes seen this as people who get back together and they reconnect intimately one last time. That is something that could possibly happen. But given how a lot of these energies talk about moving forward, I think that is the very real intention right as of right now, particularly on his end. So one thing I want to do is kind of talk a little bit more about these questions in depth. This was just kind of a good way to kind of see how everything is interacting with one another. So I'll keep these cards off to the side, and I'll take these ones away, and I'll leave this one, and I'll just dive into the feelings more. Oh, also, this card earlier jumped out at me, and so it was the basis of some of what I was saying, but this card, you deserve love and you are lovable. That's where I started to make that connection. So we'll pull another oracle as we go through each section. So talking about retreat, it's time to disconnect from the world. So yeah, I think he's running away for some reason. Not sure exactly why that is. but we definitely get this sense that there was probably some sense of withdrawal in this relationship. But in some ways, he could be retreating from his feelings. So that is something I see in people who have a lot of Sagittarian energy in their chart. They have a difficult time when it comes to dealing with the stressful aspects of relationships. They have the tendency to want to escape. Escapism can be a problem there. And then especially he's got like Mars and Venus in Virgo. So this can be like, those are difficult placements to deal with in relationships because they can be very particular and they're not very good when it comes to like words. They're more like service oriented. So oftentimes like they can kind of like go about their life and distract themselves with other things. And oftentimes the person who's left in that breakup can feel like, oh, what am I, dead to you? You know, like that's often how they can feel with the Virgo person. Like when they detach and they let go, like they move on. Like they just, and from what I saw, you have your Venus placement in Taurus, and like those people are really loyal in love. Like they love deep. They don't love fast necessarily. They don't always fall in love very fast, but like when they get comfortable, when they feel secure, that's everything to them. So that's a ride or die Venus placement. So those placements they are compatible. Because both people tend to want to put effort into the relationship through their actions or through their contributions or their resources, but it's still somewhat of an energetic disconnect because it might, you know, in the throes of not being together, it can feel like, oh my gosh, like they were not this way when we were together, right? So that can be difficult to deal with. Okay. Okay, so diving into the feelings more. Okay. Yeah, that's starting to make a lot of sense. I definitely think somebody was in his ear. Just being frank. Somebody was in this person's ear. And I would not be surprised. Be on the lookout for if any of his family members. Now, this is difficult because in astrology, there's a lot of things that can fulfill this. But anybody who has a strong Sagittarius vibe or a strong Pisces vibe, anyone with those placements, particularly if their sun is there. So like this is like December or March typically, and end of February into the first 3 weeks of March, end of November into the first 3 weeks of December. Anybody that has their sun sign particularly in that placement is probably the person that was in his ear or multiple people. But the Hangman talks about a sudden change of perspective. And so this can be like, you know, something about the view or something about the philosophy and how he was connecting with you in your relationship and his reasonings for being with you. Those things were changed somewhere along the line. And what's interesting about this card is that it has a sort of brother-sister dynamic with the High Priestess. So this oftentimes is very internal, or it's not something overt. It's not something that's expressed openly. It's something that is happening without your knowledge. The Eight of Pentacles can talk about, you know, through this change of perspective, it is possible that they wanted to, in some ways, like fight for the relationship even harder. Or this could be a card that's signaling that he's wanting to continue working on himself. I'm leaning towards the latter because of the Death card that I pulled earlier. Yeah, this is someone who is wanting to detach emotionally. This is somebody who's not wanting to deal with the emotional aspects of this. So I get the sense that he's just like trying to distract himself, and he's trying not to think about everything that's kind of taken place and everything that's happened. And, you know, the Temperance card upright is talking about moving towards healing and recovering. So something about that card gives us a nod, though, because this does tell us there's some element of remorse here. There's some element of, like, it's not like he just suddenly had no interest, or it's not like he just suddenly, like, oh, like, snip, snip, done, right? Like, it does show that there's something he's repressing or something he's not addressing even within himself, to the point where even me as a tarot reader, I'm having a difficult time actually diving into this person's emotions and diving into how they feel. So that is an incredibly interesting depiction of his emotional state. But I think because his perspective was changed in some way, I think it does help with the feelings of remorse. He can kind of hide behind a justification. And I think in a lot of ways, some of that justification might be objectively realistic. So that is something to kind of keep in mind as well. Like, he might truly feel like it's also for your benefit if you're not together. So regardless, though, I'm sure like the way everything happened, or the way things transpired, something about that still hurt you. And I think it's still important that he addresses that you've been hurt, and that he did take some part in that, even if he was doing it with good intentions. So I just want to pull one more card. I'm trying to see if I can get any sort of vibe. So with the change of perspective, the Ace of Cups, this is kind of a hard card. It's not one I ever want to talk about with clients because it does make me sad. But I have seen that card depicting as falling out of love. So like emotionally, their cup ran dry. That I know that's like probably hard news to hear. It's probably, it's a lot to take in. But typically the Ace of Cups is like budding love. So if this had come upright, this would have like expressed, deep down, he still holds on to the feelings he had when he first met you. Versus now I kind of see it as like, he might look back upon that as just in a purely pragmatic manner, and is not looking at that in a way of like reminiscing. So yeah, I don't think he has emotional investment in this anymore, unfortunately. And I hate saying that because it breaks my heart for any client to have to say that. But that's what I'm getting. So, but let's see. Maybe his feelings will change, right? This is what he's feeling right now. Feelings change. Feelings are fleeting. This is one of the reasons I don't typically actually like reading about feelings, because you can get really caught up in that. And that's not always the best way to go. So, so this is the dynamic between you two. So for you, I want to see, is it worth fighting for the relationship? Okay. So this shows that you can definitely, the Knight of Cups, you can like go forward with your heart on your sleeve, and you can sort of present as like, hey, this is my stance. I don't feel like we had closure, or I don't like the way things went down. The obstacle here that you have to get through is the Two of Pentacles. So again, the Pentacles talk about time, resources, and effort. And when the two is here, this is talking about balancing of those things. So we get the sense that like he may not be able to fully put in effort the way that you would fully want to put in effort. So the proclamation or the statement here, the Three of Cups. So normally upright, this is talking about coming back together, collaborations, unions. When it's reversed, it talks about separation or isolation or delegating elsewhere. So the real struggle here is that I think this links back to the Hierophant card, where you have a particular objective that might be a non-negotiable. It might be a deal breaker for you. So that could be getting married or having a kid or living together, right? And this person's like, I don't know, because I have other wants as well, and they're not necessarily in line with what you want. And I think that is really also kind of the Achilles heels of this relationship. So I think, long-term values or like long-term desires, or the timing of these things, because Pentacles is all about time too. So if, let's say it's a marriage topic, right? And this is just what I see commonly with the Hierophant, right? That we got earlier. So if it's a marriage thing, if you're like, look, I'm not getting any younger, right? A lot of women feel that way. I'm not getting any younger. Fertility, if you want to have children, like clock's kind of ticking. I don't want to be 40 when I get married. I want to kind of lock something in. We've been together for a bit. I'm really kind of hoping for an engagement. I'm looking for a ring here within the next 6 months or a year, right? And maybe he's just like, oh, well, I'm kind of not in a rush, like, especially because he's a little bit older. Maybe he's been in a relationship before, right? He's older than me. So let's see. He's probably like, yeah, around 40 now, I want to say. I'm bad at math in my head. So he might just be like, I've been there, done that before. I've been burned before. I feel like I want to be with someone for a much longer period before I even consider marriage again. So that could be an example of this. But it could be also in terms of like effort and quality time in the relationship. So like maybe you wanted more quality time in your interactions and you wanted him to like carve out more time for you. And he's like, well, I have other goals, so I maybe could carve out more time, but I don't know if I necessarily want to because I'm forsaking something that I want to do. So that could be a lot of what that is there. This could also be lifestyle differences in terms of why you shouldn't fight for this. So like if you're expecting a certain lifestyle and maybe in reality he can't give you the lifestyle that you're seeking. So there does seem to be some very real tangible dissonance in this, or like disconnects in some way. So I think for you, there's a lot here that I think if you move forward with Christian, that you would have to in some way sacrifice or change a lot of your wants. So it might be how we saw with the Hanged Man, right? You too might need to have a change of perspective in order for this relationship to work. So you have to ask yourself, and it could be that like, just if we're being, what is it? Honest self-reflection is what I call it. So it could be that this is a call for you to maybe be more realistic with some of your expectations, right? Hoping he'll give you a ring, before the end of the year. Like if you give him an ultimatum, you might look back and say, that's a little bit emotionally manipulative, or maybe I shouldn't have done things like that. I need to confront my own feelings of insecurity because they are bleeding into my relationship, right? Or like if you're expecting him to like spend every day with you, but he has a job and he has like hobbies and sports and other friendships that he wants to keep up, that are not part of your social circle. You might also need to like have a change of perspective. So that could very well be something that you need to consider as well. So hopefully some of these things are connecting and making sense. Would I say though to like give it a second chance? I would say not. I think that there's a much better match for you out there. And big age gaps are always difficult. I don't have your full birth chart, but I will tell you that a lot of times it's like a specific type of natal chart signature I see for someone dating someone significantly older or younger than them. And most people do better dating someone, a similar age. Most people do. It kind of depends on their chart, but that is something that I would consider as well. So do I see you together in the future, or is the relationship over for good? The King of Wands. Interesting. Okay, hold on. 4 Swords, 4 Pentacles, the Tower. So you have enough influence to create the outcome you want. So you can absolutely manifest this man back. But we have the Tower card as the outcome card, which is all about like crumbling of foundations. So part of me worries that if you get back together with him, the next time there is a potential breakup or disagreement, it's going to be major and it's going to hurt really bad. It's going to, it's like this tower is like coming down in flames, right? And like no one's safe, right? Like everybody is getting obliterated in this huge storm, this like big, huge lightning strike that hit this tower. And this is also like the lightning that strikes the tower in this card is divine smiting. So like it's something, it's karmic in nature. So sometimes it's important to kind of accept the signals that happen, and like what the universe gives us, because it does open the door sometimes for better things. So sometimes when you circle back to something that was meant to be a lesson or was meant to sort of like build you in terms of wisdom and experience, so that when you enter the next relationship, you are a little bit more mature, or you are a little bit more aware of certain dynamics, or you have this feeling of prosperity and gratitude in relationships, especially when you've been really hurt. Like when you enter a relationship that is just really compatible and feels really good, that oftentimes just creates this feeling of, overwhelming graciousness towards that person. I know that's how I feel in my current relationship, and I've been through one toxic relationship after another, after another, after another in my life. And when I finally met my person, every day I just tell my person how grateful I am for them. So I think everybody deserves that. So the fours also, so numerology is always super important. And I mentioned some of these things earlier, but numerology is super duper important in tarot. But specifically if you pull two like back to back or and pertaining to the same question, fours deal with stagnation and lack of movement. So particularly if you are looking for more movement in this relationship, you're not going to find that. That's not going to happen. So you could convince him. The King of Wands is like somebody who has the ability to be very charismatic or persuasive. So you can absolutely like charm your way back into a relationship with him. That much we can see. And a lot of that will probably come from the strong attraction between the two of you. But you'll find that I don't think communication will get better for swords reversed. In fact, you probably wouldn't spend as much time together initially. And it would just kind of feel like, yeah, he said we're back together. He said we're exclusive again, but something feels off, something feels different. And then there's a lot of not budging, not moving, you both being sort of firm in your stances. And I think that's what would lead to the ultimate sort of end. So I think that you have better prospects in the future. Let's dive more into the mom and the sister. So him, mom, sis. Let's just kind of see. And then I'll also look to see new love. We'll look at that too, because I want some happiness at the end of this. Can you tell I'm a Sagittarius? I love to lean into optimism when I can. So here he is, the Page of Cups reversed. Here's mom. Oh, look at that. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the statistically, the likelihood of pulling all cup cards together, low, like maybe less than 30% chance that was going to happen. Wow. Okay, so I would say that sis was in his ear more than mom was in his ear. So look, you can see the page. Okay, the Page of Cups reversed. So he's coming and he's talking about relationship problems, or they see he's unhappy. Because sometimes this is like when it's reversed, it's like reluctant. So it's not like he's like, yeah, I got to tell you all this stuff. I would say that he probably wasn't like super like wanting to like air dirty laundry. I wouldn't say that. But there's definitely this sense of like emotionally being stunted as well. So like he leaned in on his mom and sister to kind of like help him in that area. So the King of Cups, so like this is sis like kind of being like, oh, I'm like, I can help you in this area, bro. Like, I don't know if it's little bro. That gives little bro vibes, but I'm not sure if it's an older sister or a younger sister. But it could be she's just more experienced in relationships, or she's married, right? So like she hit the end game. So she's like, let me tell you what I think. And then yada, 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 yada. Mom, okay? Mom, and I can't remember if you said this, so I'm going to look. With another woman. Yes. Okay. Mom liked the ex, or mom really liked someone he used to kind of have feelings for. That is where mom stood. So probably it is the woman he had a baby with, but it could possibly be like maybe like an old friend that he was like, he reconnected with, and he always wanted to have a relationship with them, but the timing was never right. And if she enters back into life, and mom's like, oh, but I really liked her, Christian. She was just so lovely, and you guys are like closer in age, and yeah, da da da, and she's really good with your daughter or your son. So that could be definitely mom. That's mom's contention. Maybe not so much that she didn't like you, but like she wanted him to be with somebody else. Sis, on the other hand, could have not liked you to a degree. Now, I don't know if how well you all knew each other, to be fair, But this could be, so typically when the King of Cups is upright, this is someone who's very compassionate and very empathetic. So in this situation, there was like a lack of compassion or a lack of empathy, where normally there should be some sense of compassion. It could be that just like her allegiance is to her brother, right? So like she doesn't know you, so she's like, I don't know her from Eve, so I can say outright, I don't, here are the things that I think are wrong about this relationship. Here are my thoughts, right? So it probably comes from a good place, but just like, she just could not really care for you is what that could be saying. Or that she didn't care for the relationship. Abso-freaking-lutely. When I first started this reading, I was like, I don't know if they're in his ear. I was like, I feel like some of this was on his part, but, and don't forget, so these cut cards also connect back with this. See how all the colors are the same? See that? The blues and the reds? Change of perspective. So I would say it was not exactly his idea. Now, he may not know that what their intention was to get him to break up with you, like, or that he may not, it may not have been a thing that was like a very conscious thing to him. It's just, maybe over time, like hearing all of these ideas and hearing all of these inputs, or maybe they just didn't say much about you, but they kept bringing up the ex, right? And so he starts to go, well, yeah, me and my ex were this and this and this. And like, so it may not be something that was super calculated or strategic. I also need to put that out there, because if I saw more sword cards here, I'm like, oh yeah, it was like super strategic for them. I don't think this was strategic. I think that, they're an outside party looking in on their family member, and they feel certain ways because they've also seen him in the past relationships, and they're like, I just felt like you were more compatible with, your ex, or, I just want you to be happy, right? And like their ideas of what make him happy may not necessarily align with you and him being together. So yeah, I definitely don't think, I definitely wouldn't harbor any resentment towards them. It doesn't seem like they did it to like hurt you or anything. But I just would not be surprised if they're in his ear. And to be fair, I have a current situation in my own life where my friend is married to this awful, awful woman. And like, I definitely am in his ear being like, you need to honor yourself. You need to, why do you choose to be unhappy? And you can make new foundations. Like, it's okay to start over. You're never too old to start over, like that kind of thing. So that could be what this was too. But yeah, absolutely they're in his ear. Just kind of like looking at, yep. Was he married to her previously? Four of Wands reverse talks about celebration, ceremony, joyful ritual. The Queen of Pentacles reverse could be the ex as well. So like typically these cards are people, unless I specifically highlight that a card is a person. But if a court card pops up, that's a person. That is a person. And one thing about the Queen of Pentacles, really interesting, if you kind of look the way she's holding that pentacle, it almost looks like she's holding like a pregnant belly, or she's like holding like a bundle, like, so this oftentimes talks about like a fertile woman or somebody who has produced a child, like someone who is a mother. So like that to me is like, it seems pretty solid. This is also typically a card you will see for, this is a card you will see for Capricorn women. I see it for Taurus women too. So it could be a Virgo woman, but it's usually an earth sign woman. But that's a ringer for a Capricorn woman. So that could also be, again, talking about the age, right? Because like Capricorn is linked to Saturn, and that talks about age and wisdom. So it could be that the ex is older, and they might have really had a hang up about the age difference between the two of you. But that could be somebody who's maybe like more ahead in life, like professionally, and they're like, oh, you're really driven and ambitious, Christian. Like, you should be with a woman who's also really driven and ambitious. Now, this is not to say that you are not driven and ambitious. This is just trying to jump into the mindset of his family to get a sense of what it was they were saying. And again, when you're 10 years younger, of course you're not as far ahead professionally. You know what I mean? Like, you haven't had as much time to get ahead. You're going through your Saturn return right now, which is oftentimes when the career really takes off for people. So you're kind of like at the beginning likely of your career taking off. So it's kind of an unfair argument, but that's something that we could definitely see. The Ten of Pentacles could be like, that's what they think was endgame. Like they want him to have that happy family dynamic. I think that they might be traditionalists too. They might lean towards, hey, like you should have worked through your issues in that relationship. You should have stayed for the child. You should have stayed for the baby. So that could be a lot of mom right there. A lot of mom. And also the Six of Cups, the reason why I said I think she likes the ex is that the Six of Cups talks about nostalgia. It talks about previous memories that bring about some sort of sentimental joy for that person, or resonance, or contentment. And also this talks about harmony and balance. The Six is talking about harmony. So like the mom might have felt like the other woman was just a better match for some reason. So not to say that the mom's right? Or not to say that the sister's right or that he's right. None of that. Healing family issues. Yeah. Yep. I definitely think the family was there. God, isn't this like, it's crazy how these cards like pop up sometimes. Okay, so now I'm going to like clear the deck, and let's go ahead and look at what would happen if you were to move on. Like what kind of person could come up? How long can you expect for this person to come around? I think it's important to always have something to look forward to always look for that silver lining in any situation. So even though you didn't ask, and of course, if this is not something you're ready to hear right now because you're still like, processing, take a pause here. The video will still be up. I don't take them down typically. So just come back, come back later and watch the last 10 minutes or however long I decide to go into this. Okay. All right. So I just put the shadow of the deck on top. So this is something you're unaware of universally. An important message from the universe. Ooh! King of Pentacles. Oh, that makes me so excited because you had the Hierophant card earlier. Okay, so if the contention was wanting long-term relationship, if the contention was like, I want to settle down, and why won't you commit to me more? Why won't you be more serious? I want a man that's going to be strong and present and going to provide and be loyal. King of Pentacles is so that energy. Like King of Pentacles is, and again, the reversal. So when I start asking questions like this, the reversal doesn't mean a negative or anything. It just means like you haven't met them yet. That's really important. So if he came upright, I'd be like, oh, take a look at some people you're already kind of friends with or something, or someone you already know. It could very well be someone you've already met. This is giving the energy you have not met the one yet. Like your soulmate. Ooh, I get so happy. Oh, I get so happy. Oh gosh, like that's gonna be amazing. This is very likely a Taurus man, which would be really great because from what I saw, your moon sign is in Taurus. For the majority of the day you were born, the moon is in Taurus. So it is very, very likely. It's a strong earth sign man. And he's going to have that very, very strong disposition. This is somebody who is like formidable, immovable, someone who very possesses a lot of strength. Now this could be literal, like he could be like kind of buff or like just like have like a larger stance or be taller, but this could also be someone who has like a quiet resilience, someone who's mellow, someone who's collected in life, and someone who's financially savvy because the Pentacles deal with finances. So that's kind of talking about like who I could see entering in, which is like super cool. Well, this is the hidden message from the universe. Okay, so let's just kind of do, ooh, girl. Oh, look at these cards. Oh, this is so exciting. Like, I get really excited for my clients. I get super excited. Okay. Okay, so this is you, okay? This is you. You're a Gemini. This is you, okay? This is potential partner coming in. So here's kind of what I'm seeing. So the Knight of Pentacles is that you can meet this particular person within 1 year's time. I would not be surprised if it was in the summer, particularly August. So be on the lookout for that. But this could be you are fully sort of like really in your energy in a very strong way. You're currently going through one of the heaviest transits of your life, the Saturn return. This next year in particular is probably going to be hard for you. It's a rite of passage. We all go through it. I almost didn't make it out of my Saturn return alive, like honestly. And my husband said the same thing. Like it's a very, very difficult time that'll oftentimes challenge your greatest fears. So your greatest fear might be, not being seen as lovable from somebody that's like outside of your family, like having that partnership or companionship or connecting spiritually and having this deep, transcendent connection with somebody. Because I'm thinking about your Saturn being in Pisces, right? So this could be like by the time you get to when this person comes into your life, you are more confident or more content in yourself, because the Sun card is also connected to the Sun in astrology, meaning like the self or self-mastery. So this gives you a lot of time to really work on yourself, particularly with the Strength card. Specifically what this talks about you working on is kind of like battling your inner demons, like battling those negative beliefs you have about yourself that tell you that like you don't deserve this, or tell you that love is difficult, right? Like sometimes it's not so much even about the self. It's like some sort of experience embedded from the past that makes us believe that like love is inherently difficult or rare, right? Like, and who am I? Am I so special to have a rare kind of love? I don't see myself as any kind of special, just being honest, Angela. And I have amazing, amazing love. And I had lots of examples from childhood that love was difficult and love doesn't work and marriages don't last. And I've had all of that rhetoric in my past. And I, really did, before I met my partner, I did a good solid year of like self-love work and just doing, well, honestly, I actually have the approach of self-neutrality. So I'm not a self-love person. I'm a self-neutrality person, but that's a different topic for a different day. But maybe arriving more to self-neutrality. Or this could be if you don't have those issues with like confidence or have those issues with like self-evaluation, self-worth. This could be just like healing from the situation, right? Like getting into a space where you're ready for someone new to come in. So I definitely think, the natural progression of this is going to be within 1 year's time, a little bit less because both of these cards are like August. So I think that they'll come next August. Initially, I think that you will be scared by this prospect, particularly because I think even though this person's quite stable, things will move somewhat quickly in this dynamic. So I think that you will really have, once this person comes, like it'll feel like time flies with them. So even if things aren't actually moving fast, you feel connected, or you feel like things are moving at a pace that you enjoy, and things are exciting, things are new, and you are learning new things through this person. I think that there's also a dynamic where you guys are closer in age, king and queen. So this person might be slightly older than you. I would say maybe like within like 1 to 3 years older, which is probably going to be in a lot of ways a good match as well. And be mindful, I think, again, I don't think this is someone that's a pre-established friend. There's a possibility there may be a weird dynamic with your social group versus when this person comes in. But I do think that you will be able to kind of like, again, I get this sense of like healing past resentments, or like you might be waiting to be disappointed in this person. And I think they're going to be like, look, I'm here to stay. I'm committed. And I think that, you come to this like realization where like you start being comfortable being more honest. You start to be comfortable being more yourself with this person. So I think that there's a dynamic in the beginning where you kind of meet maybe like unexpectedly, and they get a glimpse of like your true self, and they're like, wow, like she's beautiful, she's captivating, she's amazing and alluring, right? And then like as you're getting into the relationship and things are getting deeper and they're getting serious, you might start to try to pull back a little bit. You might start to like go to your friends and be like, I don't know, like, you know, I have my doubts. And like the doubts are not so much in this person. The doubts are in, you know, relationships in general, let's say. But, you know, as you lean into it and kind of like go for the ride, you find that like you don't regret what you went through, because if you didn't go what you went through, then you wouldn't be with the person you are going to be in the future. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's like so much to look forward to relationship wise, Angela, that I feel like you should just, you know, it might be a difficult idea for you to come to grips with, but I think once you get to that point, time is also the ultimate healer, right? So it's okay to feel hurt, and it's definitely not my intention to tell you to just like get over it and move on. In fact, I do think you should still talk to Christian and get your feelings out there, and you know, see if he will kind of meet you where you are, and that so that you guys can have that closure and you can move on in a healthier way. But I do feel like you know, kind of like having a relationship where you have that real compatibility, I think that that's going to change so much in the way that you perceive yourself and also the way you interact with others. So I see a lot of positive things coming in the future. It's just you're going through such a difficult time with the Saturn return. It's a very difficult time. Most people really, really struggle in some area during this particular transit. So try to hang in there, you know, lean on your friends, you know, take up hobbies you enjoy, lean into self-care, self-prioritization, leaning into aspirations of self-actualization works great too. So like, what is a goal that you want to accomplish that has nothing to do with relationships? What's something you want to do just for you? Try to like lean into those things, and you'll find you'll be able to get through this period and come out better for it at the end. So hopefully this helps. Angela, if you have any other questions, feel free to let me know. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll speak with you soon. Thanks. Bye.